Welcome to The Explainer. You know that cup of coffee you start your day with? Well, it's got a story that's way more epic than you'd probably think. We're talking dancing goats, spiritual mystics, revolutionary ideas, and even world-changing inventions. So today, let's uncover that incredible story hidden right inside your morning cup. Okay, so let's start with what's happening right now. You might have noticed coffee's getting a little more expensive. Well, there's a big reason for that. Thanks to droughts and just insane demand, the price for Arabica coffee just hit a 47-year high. Yeah, a 47-year high. This little bean is making some pretty serious waves on the global market. But how did we even get here? I mean, how did a simple bean become the second most traded commodity in the entire world, right after crude oil? That price spike isn't just some random blip on a chart. It really shows you just how crucial coffee is, not just to our economy, but to our daily lives. To really get it, we've got to go way back to the very beginning. All right, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the mystical bean itself, then see how it created a social spark. After that, we'll look at the coffee machine and how it changed everything, and finally bring it all home to your modern cup. Okay, Section 1, the mystical bean. So, the true origin of coffee? Well, it's kind of shrouded in mystery, wrapped up in these two really powerful legends. Let's dig in and see what they tell us. So on one side, you've got this great story from Ethiopia about a goat herder named Kaldi. The legend says he noticed his goats going absolutely wild, basically dancing, after eating these weird red berries. So of course, he tries them himself, and boom, that's supposedly how we discovered the amazing, energizing power of coffee. But then you have this other tradition, over in Yemen, that gives all the credit to Sufi mystics. The story there is that they brewed coffee to stay awake for these long, all-night prayer sessions. For them, coffee wasn't just about a caffeine buzz. It was, a way to reach a higher spiritual state. A pretty different take, right? So, legends aside, here's what we know for a fact. For nearly 2 whole centuries, Yemen had a complete lockdown on the world's coffee supply. Everything went through the port of Mocha. Yep, that's where the name comes from. They guarded that secret like you wouldn't believe. But you know how it is. A secret that good is bound to get out eventually. And that brings us to Section 2, the social spark. Because that monopoly, it was about to be broken. In the 1600s, some very clever Dutch traders managed to smuggle live coffee plants out of Yemen. We're talking a major act of industrial espionage here. And this one act didn't just end Yemen's control, it kicked off a worldwide coffee craze. And I mean, it happened fast. Suddenly, coffee houses were popping up everywhere. London in 1652, Paris in 72, Hamburg, Vienna, the list goes on. And these places weren't just cafes. No way. They became the epicenters of everything. Politics, business, new ideas. Society was literally changing, one cup at a time. You have to remember what people were drinking before this. For breakfast, it was common to have beer or wine. So when coffee came along, it was a total game changer. Instead of dulling your senses, it sharpened your mind. They even nicknamed these places penny universities, because for just 1 penny, you could get a coffee and argue with some of the smartest people of the day. This was a revolution powered by caffeine and sober conversation. But of course, not everyone was thrilled about this. This new culture caused a lot of disruption. Some people saw coffee as this radical, dangerous thing. There was even a famous women's petition against coffee in 1674, where women claimed the drink was making their husbands, impotent. Basically, they complained their husbands would rather sit around talking politics all day than come home. Sound familiar? Okay, so that social spark was burning bright. The next step? Industrialization. Welcome to Section 3, the coffee machine. This is where innovation takes over and we start talking about the inventions that made coffee accessible to literally everyone. And get this, one of the biggest inventions came from a German housewife named Melita Benz in 1908. She was just sick and tired of getting coffee grounds in her cup, so she took a brass pot, punched some holes in it with a nail, and then grabbed a piece of blotting paper from her son's school book. And just like that, she invented the very first pour-over coffee filter. It's a design we still use all the time today. Incredible, right? Then, just 1 year later, another inventor named George Washington, and no, not that George Washington, came along and perfected mass-produced instant coffee. He was attacking the problem from a whole different angle, pure convenience. And his timing couldn't have been better. His instant coffee became a huge deal for soldiers in World War I. I mean, can you imagine being in the trenches? A warm, easy-to-make cup of coffee was a lifesaver. The soldiers loved it so much they nicknamed it a cup of George. That experience really cemented instant coffee's place in history. So with innovations like the filter and instant coffee, the whole industry just exploded. Coffee went from being the specialty item to a massive global commodity. And that's when you see countries like Brazil really take over. They've been the biggest producer since 1852. And then there's Vietnam, which kind of came out of nowhere to become the second largest producer in the world. All right, so this brings us to section 4, your modern cup. Because all of that history, the dancing goats, the penny universities, the cup of George, it all leads right to the coffee that's probably sitting on your desk right now. And to understand today's coffee world, experts talk about the 3 waves. The first wave was all about just getting coffee into people's homes. Think of that classic 10 of coffee on the grocery store shelf. Super convenient. The second wave was about the experience. This is when the big coffee chains took over, and going out for a fancy flavored latte became a thing. And the third wave? That's where we are now. It's all about craft. People treat coffee like fine wine, talking about single origin beans, specific flavor notes, and all these cool artisanal ways to brew it. And that brings us right back to where we started, to those record high prices and new challenges like climate change. It's pretty amazing, right? Coffee has gone from a Sufi mystic's tool to a global commodity. So the next time you pour yourself a cup, just take a second to think about that journey. You're not just drinking coffee, you're drinking history. And it makes you wonder, what's the next chapter in this story going to look like?